What's good, y'all? Welcome to Conversation Piece, your place to discover the untold stories of Indianapolis through the perspectives of all of its incredible people. My name is Patrick Armstrong. I am your host, and this is The Open Door, where we literally open the door to the studio and sit down with community members to talk about whatever is on their hearts. If you want to learn more or participate in this amazing thing that we do, go to conversationpiecepod.com and click on the open door at the top of the page. And last but not least, shout out to Life in Indy and the team over there for sponsoring this series. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. My guest today is Natalie Harris. Natalie, thanks for joining me.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Natalie is one of our business neighbors here in the Studs, works over at Grounded. And for folks that don't know you from that or from anything else that are watching or listening right now, do you mind telling us a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. So I am actually originally from Indianapolis, but I've lived most of my life other places. So Indianapolis is probably the closest I can have to home.
Okay.
But I've moved around and away for quite a bit of my life. But I moved back here in 2018.
Okay.
And then started at Grounded as just an associate while I was in graduate school. Just needed a job to be, out of the house doing other things, and started watering plants there. And I just never left, loved it so much. So I've been there for a while now. What I do now is my position has evolved many times over the years, but now I'm the B2B operations and events manager over at Grounded.
Okay. I think one of the duties of that role is to make the Studs look great.
Yes.
Which you do, I think. So congratulations there.
Thank you.
You said you came back in 2018?
Yes.
What brought you back specifically?
I was ready. It was a little bit in the middle of my graduate program, and it was just I was living in DC at the time.
Gotcha.
It was getting so expensive. I was feeling called back to home.
Yeah.
And most of my family lives around here. So it was a really kind of spontaneous decision, but I came back, was really excited to be back, and immediately fell back in love with the city.
Sure.
I looked up and looked around and thought, oh, this is so much cooler than I remember it being when I was here in high school. Mm-hmm.
What was do you remember like the vision of the city that you had as a high schooler?
Yes. It was pretty much focused on Broad Ripple.
Oh, okay. Sure.
I thought, the big city, we're going to hang out in Broad Ripple. And I thought there were neat things to do. I think I didn't dig into the different parts of the city. I kind of stayed in one lane, didn't explore a lot. I didn't have that bug yet. And then when I came back, I did. And I was ready to explore, try new different places, meet different people. It was way better when I came back around. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it makes a lot of sense that you ended up at Grounded then, because I think the work that y'all do outside of just selling plants is to try to cultivate green spaces around the city.
Yes, exactly.
So that's what I want to kind of ask you about is what does that mean to try and cultivate that here in Indianapolis?
Green spaces specifically?
Yeah, what does it mean to, you use florals and plants and other greenery to not only beautify a place, but to... I don't know. I guess I'm going to stick with beautify right now and then go from there. Yeah.
No, but I think I know what that even helped me. I know what you're asking. It's what we do, which is we make a space more beautiful, but we're adding a warmth to it. And it's what's different when you add a plant versus a piece of artwork. Not that an artwork doesn't add positively to a space, but it's a different type of addition to the space, whether it be outside, whether it be inside. It just makes the space more welcoming. Yeah. And there's something about plants that make a place feel like home or connected in a different way. I'm working on a project right now where we're working with an interior design firm, and she came to me saying, it's the missing piece. It's the piece that would finish, put the icing on the cake, however you want to call that. It's that last bit. So it's beautifying, but in a special way that, I mean, I always joke, I love plant people. Something about plant people, you're comfortable with death. You've grieved things.
Sure.
You understand the ebbs and flows of life. You've learned from your mistakes. You're nurturing. You want to invest in something.
Sure.
We have the best customers. Plant people are great. And it helps that when you meet the community of plant people, they love also beautifying spaces and making them homey.
For sure. I love that. And I appreciate you sharing and breaking that down.
Yeah.
You said something. You said something about plants makes a place feel like home.
Yes.
Do you know what that something is?
Ooh. I like to think that it's a living thing. So it's not just something that's static.
Sure.
It's a living thing that, we joke that you sing to your plants. You don't actually, I mean, some people actually sing, but I think
humming and whistling while you're watering and cultivating for sure.
Exactly. So it's the living thing that you have to invest your energy and time into. And you watch it grow. The amount of times that you should see people's faces when they say, I've had this plant for 5 years. It's been here since the inception of when I moved here. So that's where the emotional attachment comes in. And I think it goes deeper. If you're a true plant person, it will go deeper than your attachment to things. And it's hard to say that for everybody, but I've seen that be the case for a lot of plant people.
Well, like you said, it's like you're bringing life. And so like you are, and I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to know that I'm not talking about myself, but like when you have a plant, you have to literally care for that thing or it will not be alive anymore.
Exactly.
And that's like responsibility. And unfortunately, I've been a poor plant parent in the past because their plants have not made it under my tutelage, unfortunately. When somebody enters the space and comes into Grounded and says, hey, I'm not very good at keeping plants up. Like, what's the process of like helping them find something that'll work for them?
Well, first I take the shame away from it. So I look at them and I say, and I'll say it to you too. Yes. Well, the tie between mental health and plants, I think I see it. It's every day when you're in the store. It's every day when you're talking to customers. So the first thing we do is we take the shame out of it.
Yeah.
You're not the first person to kill a plant. You're not going to be the last person to kill a plant. You probably will kill another plant, even if it's incidental.
Sure.
But it's about looking at it in a different frame of mind. It's the pun intended growth mindset.
I love it.
So I know.
Great pun.
So the pun potential in plants is off the charts. But you just realize very quickly that you're not alone in it. It's just a learning opportunity. You look at it as, okay, I start asking questions. What happened? What was going on with the soil, the leaves? And I just ask all these context questions that help us figure out and diagnose the problem. And then I can help identify it. We talk through it. And then maybe I steer you towards a different plant. Maybe I warn you, oh yeah, you put that fiddle leaf in the middle of a vent. Oh yeah, that's why it died. So it's different things that you might not think about besides just your care and behavior with the plant, but it's also environmental. So you're not the first person to do that. And we walk you through the process if you have killed a plant.
Well, I am definitely somebody who's appreciative of that because always need to, not that I'm afraid to ask for, it is. I'm afraid to ask for help sometimes, I'm learning. So I appreciate it whenever somebody's like gracious with, here's what we can do to like maybe find this thing, because I do think like, I love the idea of having plants in the space because I agree. I think it brings life. It brings a different kind of energy, also a little bit of calm and peace. I think another thing about plants that I think is really interesting and you kind of touched on is like a plant can have a life cycle of many years with a person. And that means that plant obtains a history.
Yes.
You mentioned before we got on mic that history is something you're really interested in.
Yes.
I'm wondering what is the connection for you when you are as a student of history, but also as like someone with that green thumb? What does it mean to like pull those two things together and to read a plant's history as well as like in the context of just history in general? I'm
going to make a small pivot and say that I do love history. My pivot is that I like the story of it. So
100%.
And that's part of history is
Absolutely
storytelling.
Is part of it.
So I like when the plant but it becomes synonymous with the human involved with the plant, right? So then now you're telling the story of how that plant has evolved. I mean, I can use a personal example. I had one plant that went through most of the moves that I've done in my life and lasted through breakups, lasted through all these things. And then I lent it to a friend or let my friend watch it for me. Chopped it right in half, not intentional, but, and then I sobbed my eyes out and looked myself in the mirror and said, girl, you got to get a grip. You got to get a grip. But then it was a really impactful moment for me to think about the story that plant held for me and what it had, been through with me. And I got to reflect on that process. And then I buried it. We mourned, we had a moment, but it worked really well to reflect on my story and the story the plant had with me. So I think when you're talking about history, investing, and how that correlates with plants, I think it's about storytelling and how we emotionally attach things. We personify them a little bit, I think, if you're in the plant community, I guess. But
for sure.
That's how I look at it. And a lot of times when someone, you see the light bright up in someone's eyes when they're telling me about the plant that they inherited from their grandmother or they took a cutting off of a plant that their grandmother had for 20 years. So then now I get to hear that story of this plant and the fact that plants can propagate so they can, you can take a cutting and then have a new plant. That's amazing too. So then it's a shareable experience as well. I just like it. It's storytelling for me.
I love it. We're all about storytelling here on the show. And I mean, somebody's story is their history. And we can embellish and we can, exaggerate a little bit. But at the end of the day, here's the thing, like a plant can't do any of that. Like it can only tell the story it can tell because that's what it is. And I think when you were explaining it that way, I'm like, if I was treating it more as like, I want to cultivate and take care of this plant story, like, I don't know, that resonated with me, which doesn't make any sense because it's like, well, I don't want to keep it alive because it's alive. I want to keep it alive because I want to hear the story that it has to tell. So food for thought for myself.
Or
so
even maybe share that story going forward. Yes. So then it's a connecting piece too.
For sure.
Maybe it's community building there.
It's 100. Well, you talked about a plant propagates. So it is community building. When somebody takes a seedling or whatever to their place, like even if they don't know, like that story still carries on to another place.
That's true.
Yeah. You do this beautification around the city itself. You were born here, grew up here, left here, came back here.
Came back.
So that I think gives you a unique perspective on the city itself. So I'm wondering, like, what does Indianapolis mean to Natalie Harris?
The first word is community, but I'm going to take that apart a little bit more. I have found in Indianapolis a community that I didn't know existed here. I am amazed by how small it feels in a way that's really welcoming. So I've lived in DC. I lived abroad for a little bit. I lived in Haiti for a minute. And it was something that I felt when I lived there, but it was the closeness that you feel with the people that are around you.
Sure.
So it's me walking down the street and seeing someone that I know or seeing somebody that I grew up with, that my dad works with and then knows me and is happy to say hi to me, or it's say, oh, how are you doing today? It's that connectivity that you feel in a neighborhood or you feel in the intimacy of people being related to each other in certain ways.
Sure.
So I really liked that. And I liked the connectedness of the small business community. That was something that working at Grounded, working in we would do pop-up events with other local businesses or other local makers. I have absolutely loved that. And then the evolution of some of those incepting moments where then now I've seen some of the makers come full circle. Like one of my favorite ones just opened her own studio and she's doing an amazing job. It's just really fun to see people build each other up in that way. So I verbal processed my way to connectedness.
I love it.
Maybe that's what it means.
I'm a verbal processor, so I'm here for it.
We are on a podcast.
Yeah, so. That's true. That's true. It's literally, that's the definition of a podcast is verbal processing. So Well, I appreciate you sharing that.
Oh, cool.
I feel like we definitely got to have you on for a longer episode, a longer conversation so we can get into a little bit more of this.
Sure.
But as we wrap it up here, for folks that are listening and watching are like, man, I need to get this plant stuff in my life, or I just really like what Natalie has to say. How do they follow you, find you? How do they support you if you want them to do so? How do they do that going forward?
Thank you for asking. One of the best ways and the fastest ways to get in contact with us, with me, with Grounded, would be to follow us on Instagram. We're probably the most responsive there. My email is in the bio, so you can it's natalie@groundedindy.com. Feel free to shoot me an email. I mostly do business-related things at the moment, corporate, things like that, business to business. But I also work with lots of other things. Happy to talk about anything and everything under the sun, including plants. But those would be the fastest way to get a hold of us.
For sure. And that's Grounded Indy at Grounded Indy. Grounded Indy at Grounded Indy on Instagram. Go there if you want to. Wait.
It's Grounded Plant and Floral Co.
Oh, wait, that's the handle?
Yes, I know that.
At Grounded Plant and Floral Co. On Instagram. Go there if you're trying to get new plants, if you're trying to just figure out plants for the first time, or if you just want to have a good conversation with a cool person.
Yes.
That's where you can do so. Natalie, thank you so much for coming through. I really appreciate it.
No, anytime.
100%. Make sure you all check out Grounded and go to conversationpeacepod.com for everything else conversation piece related. Shout out to Life in Indy for sponsoring this series. And until next time, I've been Patrick Armstrong, and this has been The Open Door. See y'all soon.